After several incidents in which officers from the Independent Commission of Investigations have faced resistance from members of the security forces when attempting to carry out investigations, an agreement has now been reached to address the problem. With that issue resolved, the question one might now ask is, how is the process initiated for INDECOM to investigate a matter?
All right, let me give an example of a shooting injury. Police are in a community and they are involved in an incident with a member of the public, and the member of the public suffers a shooting injury. They, by their normal procedure, ought to radio that into police control. Police control have been directed to immediately advise INDECOM on our 24-hour line. The citizen can also call us on the 24-hour line, which is 833-0972. Now, having called us on the 24-hour line, our operator will contact the Director of Complaints, who will dispatch a team, which will include investigators and forensic and analysts. In that time, the police station being nearer to the scene, the police will get there before us. They are responsible to secure the scene, of course, if they are injured persons, to ensure that they get prompt medical attention. We attend the scene, we will collect exhibits, ensure the scene is properly processed, and we are the persons who can also process the scenes.
Mr. Williams says at present the Commission does not have a laboratory, which is independent of the government, but he's hoping that will soon change. However, this has not prevented examination of evidence in numerous cases.
If we look at fatal incidents, last year was a particularly bad year because for many years the average had been 200. Last year was particularly bad, averaging nearer to 300. Counting nearer 300. Particularly the Tivoli incident certainly did send up those numbers. For this year, we are almost 3/4 of the way through. It's certainly less than last year, so it's certainly a downward trend. It may very well be reflecting back to the typical 200 a year figure, but I can give you fuller statistics if you desire them from that we have currently kept.
He tells us what happens in cases where police officers are found to have committed a breach.
Well, we certainly, in all cases where we believe that there is reason to suspect that a crime was committed, we certainly give the DPP reports on all such cases. The law requires us to do so. We have sought the ruling of the DPP in all of these cases as well. Now, there has been a matter in court as regards whether we can lay a charge in court, which is not an issue of conflict with the DPP. It is whether we have the same power as the police to lay a charge, because charges are laid in court, normally by the police, but it can be laid by a private citizen. And the question is whether we have a similar power. The matter is, I believe, in court, and we'll see how the court decides on that.
The INDECOM head says there are several factors which are responsible for the high incidence of fatal police shootings. However, one fundamental issue is a lack of proper monitoring.
Certainly, in some cases, the judgment to use deadly force seems not to have been justified. Now, we don't come to final conclusions on facts, because our decision is first, is there a reason to suspect, and then whether the case reaches a level where the prosecutor can find that there's a reasonable prospect of conviction. So we don't decide any of these things, but we can say there's indications that these are the factors. So we have had some idea of the training that they have got on use of force. The training seems to be sufficient. We note that the rules seem to be sufficient. I think, as with everything, it is the maintenance of the standards by the supervision given by persons down the chain of command.
INDECOM has already made several recommendations for addressing the problems. However, Mr. Williams says a report his office has prepared will have to be tabled in Parliament before details are discussed with the media.